Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Donovan.
And I'm Jordan.
Join us as we go into the pages.
Podcast!
Yumi was daunted.
Yes. Moment of truth has arrived. Will Painter be able to stack rocks?
Oh, gosh. Well, welcome everyone to the next episode of this episode. Chapters 13, 14, and 15.
Chapters are good. Yumi has some growth, I would say, in the sense of realizing
How
certain things. I don't even know how to describe it.
she lives under a rock.
It starts off, these chapters start off with her reminiscing on how she doesn't really, everything's so rote and happens exactly the same every single day that for all she knows, it's the same town every single time and they just drive in a circle and go to the same village again.
I guess they could have really gotten away with that. You'd think she would have noticed. But
Yeah, she would have. I think she was just trying to say, like, because every town she goes to, she does exactly the same thing. Ritual bath, prayers, stack rocks, leave. Bath, prayers, stack rocks, leave.
seriously,
Sounds like literally all she does.
no wonder she's like bored and wants to go visit whatever city that was over yonder.
And she's starting to be really strict with Painter.
Yeah, she was actually annoying the crap out of me
Yes,
in these chapters.
I agree.
Wanted her to lay the crap off. Be like, you need to calm down. I think she's got her priorities mixed up, kind of.
I don't know. She's still convinced that, which I think is true, that there's something she needs to do something.
But the thing that she doesn't understand is it's not her normal thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Doing all of her rituals and summoning spirits is not the thing that she needs to be doing to figure out how to help the spirit she talked to and to figure out what the heck's going on with her and Painter. Like, why they switch worlds and bodies and crap.
And so she starts essentially training Painter to be a yoki-hijo. So, and what that basically amounts to is, I don't even know how the heck to describe this, but it is not healthy, I don't think. It's essentially beating out of the person any sense of individuality, any sense of what you want matters,
Yeah.
and just trying to destroy them and make them into a resource and just something that is like a machine, a mindless thing, just doing a task. And she starts doing that by whenever Painter tries to do something, she's very
Yeah.
and like putting it down and essentially saying, that's stupid, you're going to do this, not that. Don't do this. And I think she even says later on that, and it's kind of like a healthy realization moment for her as she's trying to train, in quote marks, Painter. She thinks to herself, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it was something along the lines of, after all, that's how I was trained. I was trained, and I turned out fine. And I think it's kind of like a seed, or maybe like growth of a seed that's already been planted, a realization that, no. And I wonder if she's going to realize that it's when she did something that wasn't part of the ritual that she got that direct communication with the spirit. Well, maybe that's not right, because she just went above and beyond.
Yeah.
But
I got the feeling through these chapters that Yumi was kind of raised in the environment where they like tried to hide her from the world type of thing, or tried to hide the world from her as like a form of like trying to control her.
totally, 100%.
It seems pretty obvious, I guess, to maybe like us, but to her, she's totally oblivious.
I think she even says that. She's like, or Lee Yoon try to keep her from it or keep it from her.
Yeah. Like she's always talking about like, oh, we need to do these rituals because people will die. And it's kind of just like, well, are you sure? Like, you don't even know if you're in the same city you were in yesterday. So that makes me believe you don't even know the people. So do you maybe really actually understand? Because
what does she make? She makes like garden boxes and
Yeah.
basic tools. Like, are they incapable of making those without spirits?
Because what I'm thinking is like when she talks about when she summoned the 37 spirits, she talked about how people would be lucky if they got sick. So are you telling me out of the hundreds and thousands of people who live on this planet, they cannot survive unless
They have 6 planter boxes.
and it doesn't make
That's a
sense
good
to
point.
me. Like
Yeah, that's a good
this planet should be on like the brink of extinction if what she believes is true.
And there shouldn't be multiple towns.
No, there should be like one, and they're barely surviving, or maybe they're surviving okay in this one town, but there's no way they'd be surviving if only 6 people.
Especially because
a year.
wasn't that? Cause sometimes they ask for things that aren't necessary for life, like the lights.
Yeah, that's definitely a nice thing.
And remember how guilty she was when that guy said that he'd been waiting 8 years to get a light,
Yeah,
and she felt like so incredibly guilty, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I failed you," and it's like. So she's been so convinced that that these requests, which aren't always for life necessary things, they're just kind of for things that are conveniences, like the lights. She's convinced that if she doesn't do it, then they're miserable and they're living in the pits of hell.
yeah.
So
Which is
it's obvious now that it's just another way to control her.
Yeah, and I'm kind of feeling like there's maybe some hidden thing that we haven't seen yet. Because we kind of talked on like Lee Yoon is just like such a huge jerk, and it kind of feels like she's just trying to keep control of Lee Yoon for some reason we don't see yet. And like maybe we were kind of talking about like there might be like some benefit she's getting from being like the warden of a yoki-hijo that we're not seeing yet. Because I mean she's not there that much. It feels like at least when the stories are.
I wonder if the villagers pay and then Lee Yoon takes the money but doesn't tell them.
Yeah, something like that is kind of what I'm suspecting. So it just kind of, this whole yoki-hijo thing is kind of feeling like more and more of a scam that like the wardens or something are pulling.
Yeah.
Because it gives them some sort of power, or they're getting wealth, or there's something.
I'd be curious to see.
So I'm anxious to find out more. And I did like how, I don't remember where it was, but there was somewhere in this first chapter that it seemed like Yumi was starting to question, well, like, why can't they do this? Let's see. I think I can find it. Oh, she was talking about apparently the people are like not supposed to go into the place she goes to stack her rocks or something like that.
The shrine.
Was that what it was? It's the shrine. She's talking about that people were working in the shrine place frequently, which apparently broke tradition. But then she kind of has this inner like thinking like, well, they want to be close to the spirits or whatever, and blah blah.
Yeah.
But then she even questions like, why shouldn't people adapt to tradition to their needs? It's like, oh, ding ding ding, keep going down that road.
Yeah, it kind of just continues, and she makes Painter recite prayers. Only 6 of the 13.
Which is still quite a lot for someone like Painter who doesn't say any.
Yes, it takes about 30 minutes. And he's kind of getting fed up and frustrated, and she's also getting fed up and frustrated. And there's even one point where he makes a joke. I don't even remember what the joke is, but he's saying, "Oh, everything is ritual." He's like, "Ritual this, ritual that, ritual that. Do I have to get my ritual underpants, my ritual finger clipper?" And then she does her thing. She's like, "Levity is not becoming of yoki-hijo. Your duty is to our people. To make light of your position is to make light of their lives." And then Painter's just like, it's a shame then that their lives are so ridiculous that mockery is inevitable. And she's like, "Enough! You will take this seriously." And he's like, "Arr!" And so they're just kind of like on edge. And then Painter makes a good point. He's like, I didn't choose this. Like, I got forced here out of like nothing. I'm forced into this random body. I have no idea what the crap is going on, and like now you're just being a bitch.
Sounded almost like a Porky Pig or whatever. But she's totally coming off as like Lee Yoon right now to me. And like she kind of like let go of herself, I think. Like when they first kind of met, she was like reserved and held back, and she was nice. But then she found, oh no, Painter's a liar. So now she's treating him like dirt, and like he's kind of letting it happen right now because he still feels guilty. But I think he needs to get out of that and be like, no, this is enough. I think that.
Yeah.
I'm glad he kind of broke out of that because I was like, geez, this is just...
I think Painter's definitely getting the short end of the stick. And even
kidding.
later when we go back to his world, it's still kind of like, geez.
Yeah, she still is trying to be a butt about it. But we'll get to that.
So, yeah, they do all these things. They pray, and then Lee Yoon comes to get them, and so it's time to go stack rocks.
Oh, they meditated, which I thought was kind of interesting to go through because I think meditation is against what Painter is used to doing. Like, because they were trying to, she's trying to get him to not think and not be in his head and, meditate or whatever. But that's almost like, I almost thought that was kind of the opposite of what he needs to do as a nightmare painter. Because he has to, visualize something, right, and put it on his paper and try to get the nightmares to turn into it. So it's kind of like the opposite. Like, he needs to be thinking and, instead of just, Yumi needs to shut up.
Yes, and she attributes him never meditating to the fact that he's the way he is. Because when she finds out he doesn't meditate, she's like, no wonder he's like this. No wonder he lies or does all of this.
If only she could meet other people. I'm sure his world is similar to ours, where there's way worse people out there lying than Painter.
And then Yumi has her weird thoughts again because they're kneeling and meditating, and then she's like she can't stop thinking about him. And then she realizes that normally only married couples kneel and meditate together.
Yeah, kneel at the altars or whatever it was they were at.
Yes, and then she realizes that many of her favorite stories involved a yoki-hijo falling in love.
And that's another thing too. They go into that and they talk about how Lee Yoon has done a pretty good job of keeping those stories away from Yumi. But when she was in training, there was another yoki-hijo that told her stories. And that just shows me more they don't want her to go off and have her own life and get married and have kids and have family. No, she needs to stay in here. And they're way too hard up about it.
Yeah.
They're way too pushy about it, and they're way too strict to make me believe that they're doing it for the good of the people. Certainly not the good for Yumi.
Now they're going there, and this is when Painter's finally like, wait, how do I summon spirits? And she's like, you just have to stack rocks. Yes. And she just assumes, she keeps making assumptions that are
seriously.
Just ridiculous. And the ridiculous assumption she makes this time is she assumes that the spirits chose him because he's a prodigy, and he's going to be able to expertly stack rocks.
Which is so dumb. And we kind of have an idea of what these stacked rocks, because it's been a thing for the last few years where you can go up to the mountains and go somewhere that you'll see stacked rocks. It's a thing or whatever. Yeah. But for Painter, stacking rocks is exactly what you see here. He just piles them on top of each other, and it's there, I stacked it. Is this what you want?
Yes, he doesn't create art.
Yes. I do love, though, the reaction of everyone. I love the reaction of everyone because I thought it was hilarious. Just
because he stood the first rock on end and it fell over. And everyone's like,
yeah. And Lee Yoon.
And then Yumi's like, oh crap. And even Lee Yoon's watching Painter horrified.
Yes. I could not be a yoki-hijo, tell you what.
I know. Then he kind of stacks. He kind of makes a pile, and then he's points at Lee Yoon, and he's like, "Is this what you want?" They're stacked.
Yeah. So he did exactly what she said.
Yes.
She's just an idiot and doesn't bother giving any sort of instruction.
Yeah. Fortunately, we don't know what happened after that because the chapter ends and then it begins with Painter waking in his rooms back in his world. So we don't know.
We get a little bit. It does go into a little bit. It talks about how she had him practically beg Lee Yoon it's fatigue. Right. I couldn't do it. Yeah. So I guess they went back to the trailer and fell asleep, and then now they're back to Painter's world.
I forgot about that part.
I was glad to have a little more chapters, a little more time in Painter's world. It seems like we had the couple of chapters where it was just about him and Yumi wasn't there yet, but then up until once he started going to Yumi's world, it's just it's always in Yumi's world.
Yeah.
So I was glad to have a little bit more.
Some interesting things in this chapter.
Oh yes.
So Yumi's still trying to stay in charge, and so she's like you have failed, trying to guilt him essentially. And he's like, I freaking did what you wanted me to do. He's like, I did it 6 different ways before you had me leave. Which I understand Yumi's frustration. But I don't think she's understanding Painter's position and his frustration because
No,
he's like,
not
we're
at
going
all.
to stay here and we're going to train and you're going to become good at this. And he's like, no, we need to make sure that my foreman took care of the living nightmare and make sure that the family's taken care of that was there.
Yeah, so I like how he put his foot down. And it really bugged me. They talked about, I think he got her to kind of see more of his side a little bit, but she was so concerned, like, oh, if I don't do my job, people will die. But, like, she didn't give a grand crap about the people that Painter's trying to help.
Yeah, she was even like, oh, like, they'll kill people? He's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
She's like, I almost it's like she was like in that state of mind where like she was so absorbed with her own problems that she was just completely oblivious to anyone else's problems, which is the part I was just like, I'm gonna stab you.
So he convinces her that they need to go see the foreman, but she says she doesn't want to go out in her current state because right now she's wearing his pajamas, which for her is really immodest, and she hasn't bathed. That she says, even though I bathed as a spirit, I don't think this body is clean.
Doesn't even say she's smelly.
I don't remember.
I don't either, but
Maybe she thinks she is.
maybe that's just what it was. She just thought she was stanky. It was pretty interesting though to read about her first experience with a shower.
Yes.
It was a lot less awkward than the bath with Painter.
Because first she was amazed. She's like, how did you get the geyser to come out here? And he's like, it's water pumps. He's like, there's servants at the pump. And he's like, no, it's machines.
That's another thing. Like, her world is not as technologically advanced, so just everything that ever has to get done, she just assumes another person is getting it done.
Yeah.
It's never
She doesn't
a
really have a
machine or
concept of-
something like
it
no
doesn't-
concept of that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that until this chapter because of how she
Hadn't really come up yet when they were. I mean, she watched the TV, but I guess at least something as basic as showering, it was even a big deal.
Yeah.
She even asked if he had attendants that could come and bathe her, and he was like, "No, do it yourself."
Yeah.
And he points her to the soap and shampoo, and she's like, "How many times am I supposed to? How long do I need to like suds it before I rinse it off? Like, is there like a set amount of time? Like, she's seeking for a ritual. She wants there to be a ritual. Like, she expects there to be a ritual. And
Yeah.
he's just like, no, just do it. There's no rules. There's the shampoo. There's the conditioner. There's the soap.
Yeah. And she doesn't even know how to do it. So he kind of still has to direct her, but she eventually figures it out, gets it worked out. Oh, and what's even worse, she seems to figure out how to shower and get herself cleaned up and wash her hair and all that stuff. But I don't know what it is, but she's completely useless at dressing herself.
Yes, and I think Painter starts to understand more of like why she is the way she is, because he's like, you've never even bathed by yourself, and she's like, no, since a baby, this is what I've been. My whole purpose, my entire existence, is service. And then Painter's like, no wonder she's so strange.
It kind of makes, I didn't even think about this, but she's like had literally everything done for her entire life. So it's like, no wonder she can't think for herself and realize she's stupid.
Yes, and her ideas are just awful.
Yeah.
Like, assuming that Akane is a concubine, and assuming that Painter is this marvelous hero and essentially worshiping him.
Yeah.
And then assuming that he'll have some natural talent. It even mentions in this that I don't remember why, they're talking about it at some point, and she says that it took her years of training to learn to stack rocks. And he's like, you just expected me to do it the first try? And she's like, I just thought you'd have natural talent. And so I would be so pissed. Like, someone tells me to do something that I've never done before. I'd mess up and they get pissed and they're like, you failed, you freaking suck. And they're like, it took me years to master this. I'm like, how come you expected me to do it this first time then? And the response is, I just assumed you would. I would be like, screw you.
Yeah. That's what's touchy about me with this is I've had that, not to this scale, but I've had that happen at jobs before where they're like, maybe show me it once and then I do it and don't do it perfectly, then they lose their crap and like, oh, go straight to hell.
Right. Yeah, that'd be so bad. And I'll be like, you realize I'm in control, right? Like, if you don't cool your crap, I'm just gonna start screaming. I'm gonna run out in the middle of the village and I'm just gonna start screaming and saying spirits are cursing this town.
Oh, I would love that so much. That would be hilarious. I want to do something like that so bad, like maybe like just walk out there and like totally just deckly you.
Yes.
That would be awesome. Oh, now I have high hopes for the next few chapters. Well, so after Leon...
Yes, and she starts to learn a
Yumi
little bit more
starts to
about
get-
choice because she realizes
Oh, yeah,
that
this is interesting, too.
yeah, she realizes that Painter chose to be a painter, and it's kind of like plants a little seed. We'll get into more later in this chapter, but they decide to go. They need to go to the foreman, but Yumi, freaking heck, Yumi wants
I confused it because I said Leon.
wants to be modest, and so she puts together like the most weird outfit you've ever seen in your life. She puts on like a shirt, a sweater, and then a coat or something, and then as a skirt she wears another sweater.
Yeah.
And so she's just piling on clothes that's like totally ridiculous.
Doesn't she have pants under her sweater, too? I can't
I think
remember.
so. I think she has pants too. Like
But
she's just
wearing...
layering up because she wants all these layers to be able to feel modest.
And she is used to the hotness of her planet, too. So she was also a little cold, I think. So
Yeah, that's what because Painter even asked, like, aren't you going to get hot? And she's like, no, it's freezing here. I'll be fine.
Which is interesting because I want to know where this body she is inhabiting, where's that body from? Whose body is it?
Right? Like her whole body's like, where's Painter's body?
Yeah, because he doesn't seem to be like, oh my gosh, it's so hot here, but it's like he's in Yumi's body, so
Yes.
it would make sense.
I never thought about that. Where the heck is Painter's body?
Yeah,
Because when he goes to her world, he possesses her body, and when they come to his world, Yumi's there in her body.
yeah, it's so confusing.
So what the heck?
Did the spirits take his body or something?
Something.
Did that nightmare come back and take his body, and that's why Yumi's there in a different body? I don't know.
And so they go out, and of course, Yumi gets a lot of stares. And Hoyd kind of interjects, and he's like, yes, this is a big city, and people are used to seeing weird things, but they're used to seeing the normal weird things, like a drunk homeless person.
Yeah.
Not a woman walking down the road wearing a sweater as a skirt.
Oh, that reminds me, actually, like, even back in the shower, when she came out, she put on 3 towels, and I totally forgot about that, so she just doesn't know how to dress herself or anything. Well, at least she came out dressed.
And everyone's staring at her, and Lee Yoon's like, see, these people know that I'm a yoki-hijo. And Painter's like, no, you just look like a crazy person. And she's like, no, it's my sacred calling. I'm like, oh my gosh, Yumi.
Seriously.
She
needs to be
You're getting
slapped.
kind of annoying.
Yeah, she's getting really annoying in these chapters. It's like, my gosh. She's just really starting to make herself so stuck up and everything. And I demand she be humbled.
Foreman's office, and Yumi's weird.
Yep, she goes back to her honored foreman type of talk.
Yeah, it's like, Foreman, you need me.
And man, you know what? I am really starting to feel so bad for Painter because not only is like Yumi just being such a jerk to him this last day they've had, but he's had to deal with people talking about him as if he's not there. And like people back talking him and stabbing him in the back. Well, like man, stabbing in the back and just like really
Just like hearing what they actually
like
think
no one
of
has anything nice to say about him. And it doesn't help that Yumi is totally trashing, ruining his already not really that great reputation. So I felt so. It's just like, I'm very sorry, Painter. You have to deal with this woman, and now you find out like everyone else hates you.
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually like hate him, but they don't have nice things to say about him. Like, what the heck?
Oh, and I found the line where she's saying people stare at her. She's like, they stare at me like the townspeople do. So even though you don't have yoki-hijo, these people can feel there's something different about me. It is my burden and my blessing. And then Painter's thoughts were being weird was apparently her primary burden. But he wasn't certain that was what that was blessed about that. That was kind of funny. So yeah, then we I think we're getting a little more insights into Painter because so far we've seen Painter just from his perspective, and he views himself as like this lone wolf, lone warrior, misunderstood. But everyone else that has interacted with him so far kind of views him as lazy and as a creep and not really that great of a worker or a person, really.
Yeah.
Because we get to the foreman's office, and it turns out that he didn't really take Yumi's initial warning seriously. And he's like, oh, I figured it was Painter. He just lies, and he always wants to be the center of attention.
And I wanted to know, where did that come from? From what we've read about Painter, he is not that way at all.
I don't know. Maybe he is, and we just haven't seen it because he's been in this weird situation.
But I mean, like, he hasn't. The only thing he's lied about is like He pretended to be this hero that Yumi thought he was, but he's not lied about anything else we've seen. He's not been like, oh yeah, I defeated this nightmare. Here's my painting or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he actually has taken on 2 nightmares since we've met him. So I'm just kind of curious, like where the crap that came from.
Yeah, so she's asking about the stable nightmare, and the foreman's response is basically, tell me more about this thing which he supposedly saw. And Painter's missed 2 days, so he's like, he's too sick to come in or call in, but he's sending you for an update, and so he's just not buying anything.
So
and then he's kind of doubting it, and then Painter's like, no, I chased it off, and then Yumi says he used his powers, and then he's like, it's half-rate painting. So basically, yeah, just realizing that this foreman does not like or respect Painter at all.
no.
Which I'm suspecting maybe Painter is kind of like that, but I'm also suspecting that the foreman's kind of a jerk.
Definitely getting those
Yeah.
vibes. He's got major jerk vibes.
And then finally, what convinces the foreman to maybe think it's real is she mentions the family and gives him an address to the house, which makes him say, okay, I'll look into it, and maybe he'll actually do something.
Yeah, but even then, Painter was not convinced that he took her seriously.
Yeah.
And
But
they were going
they-
to go check on the family, weren't they? Or were they going back to
No, I don't think that was part of the plan. He was just assuming the foreman would take care of it. And so as long as the foreman knows, I think Painter thinks that will be good enough. It'll be taken care of. But they leave, and I think Yumi's starting to realize that the world that he lives in is not the world that she lives in, and not necessarily that the planets are different. I think just how sheltered Yumi is, because Yumi's like, he said he'll take care of it. Painter's like, I doubt it. He's probably just going to write me up. And she's like, your world makes no sense. People simply just mislead one another. And
Yeah,
he's
and
like,
that reminds me, she had the same confusion about locking the door when they left his apartment.
oh yeah, she's like, people just come in
Yeah.
to wait for you to come back. And he's
Apparently,
like,
they're
no, to
way
steal
more
my crap.
trustworthy in her world.
I agree with Painter though, and because he says, I bet they do the same on your world, just not around you.
Yeah,
People are
well, that's
people,
right.
I mean,
Yes.
your world is different, yes, but I doubt it's that different. So
Yeah, that's true.
I think Yumi is just so sheltered that she doesn't see this side of people.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And they make it back to the apartment. Painter also brings up the point, like, maybe the spirit sent you to help me.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh.
And
I didn't
then
know that.
that's kind of what makes her lighten up a little bit.
And then she starts to lighten up. And then when they're coming into the apartment building, Akane comes out and they run into Akane. And
This interaction goes a little bit better.
a little
Well,
bit better for Yumi.
yeah.
Essentially, yeah, Yumi's not really helping Painter.
Not in the least.
Because basically she says, I'm his sister. I'm here. I'm wearing these weird clothes because I don't have clothes. Painter's not here. I lost my clothes. And then Akane's like, so he invited you to the city. You lost all your clothes. And he just leaves. He just leaves you alone. And she's like, yes.
She's not good at making up good excuses that don't make Painter look like a total
Yes.
jerk.
And then Painter's like, let's go. Let's leave. And then she starts to leave. But Akane's like, hey, it's probably none of my business, but do you need help? Do you want me to take you shopping? And then Yumi's like, yes. Like bursts into tears.
I hated this part so much. Like she treats Painter like such crap in her world, and then comes here and acts like he is so abusive, and like she's been put through so much trauma. I'm like, if I were Painter, the next time I go to her world, I'd be like, screw you. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. And Painter is quiet for much of the next chapter. Doesn't
Yes.
really say much. But basically, yeah, they go shopping, and it's pretty overwhelming for Yumi because she's never had the ability to make choices. And this is when we start seeing where she's realizing that Painter has choices, and she realizes when she's in Painter's world, she also has choices. And that comes out in her being able to choose what to wear, because normally she just wears what is given to her. So just even going to a little shop where there's a bunch of choices is like really overwhelming, and she's like, I don't know what the heck to do.
It almost sounded like they went to like a what do you call those stores that are like not regular stores?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't think it was as big as a department store, but I also, so it was probably just like a smaller, I don't know, designer store. I don't even know what it was.
We don't go shopping, so we don't know. But it didn't seem like it was like a regular big clothing store that like Calvin Klein or whatever. I don't even know if they have stores, but. And of course she starts she doesn't understand that people have jobs either, and she keeps referring to everyone, at least in her head, as servants, like they're just slaves there to
Right.
answer her every whim.
Yes, and that's how. So she tries a little bit. She apologizes for how she acted before, and then she tries. And Akane's like, "It's not your fault that your brother's a creep." And she's like, "Oh no, he was talking about his TV show."
Tried to do some damage control.
And then Akane kind of laughs and says, "I've heard that you smaller town people are traditional." And that's partly because Yumi looks at some of the outfits and thinks that they're very immodest. And she even thinks what Akane is wearing is immodest. And she says she's like one stretch and a bend away from like her skirt becoming a belt.
Yeah,
whatever that
she
means.
probably is too.
And so she asks for a full dress, but she doesn't know what to decide. So Akane goes around. I'm kind of speeding through this part because I don't know if it's super important to the story. But they basically, she goes to a dressing room, tries on a few dresses, and both Akane and Painter are like, "Wow, you look so good." And she's like, "Oh, I do look good. I'm freaking sexy." And then she also tries on a bra for the first time.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of funny. As a guy, I don't really fully understand.
Yeah.
I'm sure this was more a relatable part for the women, but she says she puts on the bra and she's excited because she can jump and it's not uncomfortable. Moving on, because I don't have any experience with that.
I wonder, I would have been more upset too if I was Painter, because Yumi first brings up like, "Oh, I don't have any money, I can't buy new clothes." She's like, "Oh, I'll buy it for you and make Painter pay me back." And I was like, "Oh, you guys are just so cruel to poor little Painter just trying to live his sad little life.
Barely afford ramen noodles.
Yeah,
they're going on a
gosh.
shopping spree.
And now you're going on a dang shopping spree, and he's gonna be
Yes.
homeless the next time he come back. But you'll have clothes.
And we get another insight into Painter that maybe his crush on Akane isn't as deep or meaningful as it was initially appeared to be, and it's maybe more of a infatuation. Because Yumi's like, "She's very pretty," and he's like, "Yeah, prettiest in her class." And she's like, tell me what you like." And then Yumi says, "Tell me what you like about her other than that she's pretty." And he's like,
Yeah,
she has good
totally
fashion.
phases.
She's like, she has good fashion sense. And Yumi's like, "No, that's just another way of saying she's pretty." It's like, "Are you just infatuated like with her?" And he's like, "Why do you care?" And they're like, kind of have this little argument. And then it turns out that apparently the first day of school, he was teased and bullied a little bit, and Akane was nice to him, and he's been in love with her ever since, essentially. And so he's basically just built up this fantasy of her, which has probably creeped her out because he like stares at her every once in a while, and she's kind of like, "He never talks to me. He just like stares at me. He's kind of a weird guy."
Yeah, probably. That's part of the story we don't see in this.
And of course, in his own mind, he's like, "I'm a lone wolf destined to wander the streets as a hero, unappreciated hero."
Yeah, and that's when he first met Yumi. That's kind of that we got that idea. Like he has a high opinion of himself, or he wants to look really cool and think of himself as cool and like bad and or whatever. And
which probably feeds his depression, because then he has those thoughts and then he like realizes that that's not even close to true.
He's not that at all.
And then Yumi asks a good question, which I hope would have been answered, but she asks why he became a painter. Like, why did he even want to do this job? But before he can answer, Akane came back, and this is all during her trying on clothes and intermittent. And we also get
just point at the mannequins you like, and I'll go get you some stuff.
Yes, and I do not like the outfit she picked. We get a little artwork of it. The description sounded all right. It said that she had a dress with like a cardigan jacket, and I was like, okay, it's probably not awful. But then the painting, she just looks weird. She's wearing like rain boots and like a dress and a denim jacket, and I don't understand. Painter and Akane's reaction are like, "Wow, you look so pretty." I'm like, okay.
We had to be there.
Yes, and then this fuels Yumi, and she's like, "I'm going to be blasphemous." But for the first time in her life, she wanted possessions, things that were hers.
Yes.
And she was so excited to leave the store and have 3 outfits that were 100% hers just because they were hers. Which I guess I can feel. I'm trying to empathize with Yumi, because her whole life is just been this insane craziness and just demeaning and humiliating and not being allowed to be a person.
Yeah.
That even something as simple as owning an outfit is like life changing. is just like insane to me. Like, how can you live like that and be treated like that, or treat someone like that? It just seems so crazy to me.
Yeah. I think after this, it's going to be a little harder with her experiencing what it's like to make her own decisions and not have people just thrust everything on her. I think it'll be a little harder for her to go back and be like, start to live like, as the yoki-hijo again.
Yeah.
Even if it's just Painter she's directing to do crap, she's probably going to be like, oh, I wanted to go to that festival. Because, like, we're still... that festival or whatever she wanted to go to.
I think it was a while away. Like
it was like 90
couple
days
weeks or a month or so. I don't know.
It was a ways away, but I don't think it's not that much time has passed. I think maybe
It's been
she'll
a
get
few
to
days. Yeah, it seems like every time they go to the person's world, a day passes in the world they left.
go. Yeah, so I wonder if she'll see something like that and finally just be like, "Screw you," and go with that anyway.
Yeah, maybe she will, or maybe Painter will do it for her. Like, we're going.
Yeah,
Who
that's
knows?
what needs to happen.
And that's basically how the chapter ends. They make it back to the apartment. Akane invites Yumi out to dinner, to the noodle shop, and Yumi's really excited about that. But yeah, that's where the chapter ends. So these chapters are kind of, I know we've talked about this in other books that we've read. These are just kind of like more the character building, establishing who these people are, what their motivations are.
Yeah,
And I generally enjoy chapters like this. You know, I think it gets you just more involved in what's going on with the story, and they are a little more dry, a little more boring. There's not action. Nothing really happened other than Painter totally screwing up the rock stacking ceremony. So there's still some suspense there, like what the heck is Li Yun gonna do, and even Yumi said that there's certain steps that can be taken to punish a yoki-hijo for not doing her duty. So I'm like, okay, not only are they like totally brainwashed to do this, but there's punishments if they don't succeed or if they're unable to. So I'm thinking, like, if you're old, like, do yoki-hijos only live till they're 40?
yeah, honestly.
And then do they get ritually sacrificed so another younger yoki-hijo can be born?
Oh, I wouldn't be shocked at all to learn something like that. What's going on?
And so the plan as we have it now, we didn't talk about it, but Yumi's plan is to try to convince Li Yun to train Painter. We have that waiting for us back on her world, and we're gonna see what happens as Yumi lives a normal life in Painter's world. She's probably gonna make some friends. She's probably going to realize that her life sucks. Yes, she's been taught it's essential, and yes, she probably does need to do it, but she's going to see that there's so much more to life than just being everyone's slave.
Yeah, I'm kind of still suspicious that she'll find out that these rituals mean little to nothing, and maybe not all of them are necessary, so that she will either continue to be like a yoki-hijo, but then like she'll only do it a few hours a day or something like that, and then to go have a normal life, or maybe it'll be like a job and she'll do it 9 to 5 or whatever, something like that. So when she is not working as the yoki-hijo, she can go off on like explore cities that she's in and go to this festival thing she wants to do, stuff like that. But as things are going right now, I don't see that she will stay the yoki-hijo one way or another.
Yes, I'm
We'll
very
see.
curious to see what will happen.
Right now, they're both doing a really good job at screwing each other's lives up.
Yes.
That's about the only thing that's happening.
Yes, they're both not doing very well when
Those
they're
poor
in the driver's
Saps. But
seat.
still, even though Yumi's life is being just as screwed up as Painter's, still, in these chapters, I don't like Yumi. Well, anything exciting pop out of you in these chapters? Just like, yay, shopping. Reading about shopping is almost as fun as going shopping.
Just some classic character building.
Hi, it seems like it's going a little slow. Seems like when you get 16 chapters in, you're usually a little more into what's going on and stuff, rather than
That's true.
still kind of slowly going. But
Yeah, good point. I
I'm
guess
not
we'll see.
complaining.
Maybe these next chapters they'll get attacked by a nightmare or something.
I really hope so. Maybe they'll get attacked in this noodle shop, and then she'll realize that.
I'm also curious to see what happens. I'm curious to see what happens when Yumi sees Hoid. If there's going to be any sort of reaction or something's going to happen.
As like
Because one of our theories, is that Hoid's the one who reached out to try to get her to help him.
All right. Well, so they're
going
I
to
didn't
they're
think
going
about
to the
that.
noodle. They're going to go to the noodle shop where
yeah,
he's the.
they're going to that noodle
Kodak.
shop where
So she's going to meet
he's at.
She's going to meet no, not a Kandra. Cryptic,
Spren, or Cryptic.
and Hoyd.
Oh man,
And I'm curious to see if she just doesn't even recognize anything, or if like something happens, like maybe she'll feel a presence or
maybe
hear a voice or something. I don't know.
that'd be interesting. Well, many curious things going to be happening. Hopefully,
Yes.
we hope you enjoyed these chapters. We enjoy these chapters. It's always fun to get mad at somebody. Well, next week we'll be going through chapters 16, 17, and we said 19. 16, 17, and 18.
Yep.
And hopefully I think things are going to be starting to happen. It kind of feels that way.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Especially, I love the... It's always hard to turn the page to the next chapter when you're supposed to stop, and then you just read, what's a noodle shop? I don't know why. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Do they feed you? Oh, man, that's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah, she's going to have to feed herself.
She's going to have to feed herself, and she's probably going to make an absolute fool of herself.
Yes.
I can't wait. We need some retribution for how much of a jerk she was.
All right.
Anyway, join us next week as we find out what Yumi does when she... I don't know if these guys are using chopsticks or what. I want to see her eat. See her eat. Read about her eating.
Yes. All right, next week.
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
It's over.